again. We're on air.
Very exciting.
Absolutely. So, what's been going on this week, or this last 3 weeks, I should say?
Well, I'm now involved heavily with a complete engine rebuild. So, I've got the head in front of me here, but basically, a car came in for a ticking sound, and it turned out that it was a broken piston skirt.
Yep,
So,
that'll do it.
Yep. So it's getting a full engine tear down and rebuilt. So that's kept me busy for the past few weeks.
Excellent.
Also been doing some distributor work, and we got 4 to do, and some carb stuff. So
it's funny you should say that. I'm sitting in front of my tray of distributors. And as you can see, I've not finished them yet. So, okay, that's excellent. Hi, Troy. See you in there.
Hi, Troy. Seaman
Wonderful.
Sam. Hello.
Yeah, Seaman Sam. Hi. Excellent. So, what have I been doing over the last 2 or 3 weeks? Well, it's been busy. It's very, as you notice, my channel is all very SU orientated at the moment. So there's a lot of SU heavy stuff going on. So everybody likes a bit of shine. So
Yeah.
there it is. That's SU HIF 44 number 1. That's an ACDodd. So that's the first one built. That was actually the prototype. So the first off they did. People have been buying them, which is excellent. So all I can say is thank you very much to Mini Spares because they're available and they are for sale. So I will be looking at following this up with other carburetors, just not yet. Okay, so give us time to breathe, and then we'll look at an HS4 and probably an HS2. But there won't be no HIF 38, unfortunately, because Berlins don't make them. So I can't do a lot about that.
Well, just the fact that they're willing to build it to your specs, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Yeah. So I'm just I'm really chuffed that they was able to do that. So I'm really happy about that. And obviously, so's everybody that's asked me if I can get that done. So I only did that because people were saying to me, how do I get one of your carbs? And I've got to buy one and send one in. And when you're all around the world, it's a bit of a pain in the backside to do all the shipping and pay for all that. So it was easier just to set up a new carb. So that's why we've done it, which is really good. I see we've got 22 people, 5 likes already. Thank you very much. That's what we like to see. The other thing that's been going on for me in the last month is flywheels and primary gears. More flywheels and more flywheels. So I'm just a flywheel guru now, apparently. And we got questions coming in already, which is excellent. Blimey, thick and fast. Right. Okay. So let's start at the top there. Matthew Richard Witts. What are your thoughts on twin carburetors? Do you want me to answer that, or do you want to have a crack?
Well, I certainly like them, but as we all know, that they need to be rebuilt professionally with good bushings in order to have them at least have a chance of fueling equally. Not to mention the dash pots need to be corrected and the dampers and things of that nature. But in terms of the performance, they certainly outclass a single carb. But in terms of adjusting and tuning, if you're doing it by yourself, the single carb is much easier to work with.
Yep. It just so happens that I've got some more. So a pair of twin carbs. These are a pair of HI4s that I've just done for an MG B. So it's a B-series engine, 1800cc. But, you can make these fit an A-series. So, you can make these carbs fit a lot of different engines. So don't just be put off by, these have to fit the engine that they were originally designed for. But the point is they need some modification. But to answer the original question, twin carbs are the ultimate in terms of drivability and performance in terms of an SU setup. However, they come with what's called the twin carb tax. So first of all, as Darren's already said, it's not worth messing about with them unless they're freshly rebuilt or as new. So big price tag. Okay, they're not cheap. Secondly, you've got to have them set up, and there goes the price tag again, because you've got 2 carbs to set up, so that's twice as much fun for the person doing it, which will take longer. So you pay more. You may also have to have parts fitted during tuning, which will mean two springs, 2 needles, etc., etc. It just all adds up. So, in my view, twin carbs are the best. However, they're not the best for everybody in terms of financially. They don't go out of tune if they're in good condition, although a pair of SUs will wear or will go out of tune quicker than a single over a long period of time, not in 2 weeks. If they're going out of tune by the time you drive around the block and come back, it's because they're worn out. So hopefully you got something out of that. Yeah, they are better, but they cost a lot more money.
They also look cooler, yes.
In
the engine bay. Always look better with more carbs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially if they look like that, and there's 2 of them.
Yeah. My Elf came with a HIF4 on it that I need to rebuild.
Absolutely. So Tony Harmer 59, well done with the HIF44. You must be chuffed. I'm absolutely stoked to bits for that. I mean, to have your carb or have a carb with your initials on it is fantastic. Built to my spec, which is absolutely excellent. So very, very chuffed about that. And I'm also waiting for the first customers to ask me to help them with tuning on it as well. So the first one went to Norway. So hopefully he's watching later on, or he might be watching now. As I say, the first one of these went to Norway, and that's exactly why I did it. It's for the people that are not necessarily in this country. It's around the world. Going with Pile. Hello, guys. Hi there. Dan Hardy. Evening, chaps. Congrats on the Carb AC. I'd hope the wife would let me get one for Xmas. Got told where to go. Maybe one day. Okay, fair enough. Well, the good news is, you don't have to have a new one. If you've got a good exchange unit, I also do, rebuilt carbs, which is where I started, and I will continue to do the rebuilt carbs. But these are almost half the price. Okay, so depending on obviously the work and how much damage there are, so you don't have to have a new one. The new ones just suit certain people more than others, depending on their situation. Okay, so what we got? Bradley Clark, good evening, guys. Barry Tilbert, hi, Barry. Nice to see you're online. Hi, guys, all good, I hope. AC drove the comma home to Worthing tonight. All I can say, and all I will say is it drove perfect. I do need to turn the idle up, however. Yeah, you will do now, Barry, because we tuned it when it was warm, and it's a lot colder now, so that's fine.
Well, that's one of the nice things about the HFs is that they make adjustments to temperature.
Yeah, and obviously that one, as I said in the video when we did it, it still needs some work. So it's a bit rich on the overrun when the throttle's closed, but that's up to the owner to decide if he wants to spend some more money on it. Elliot Stringer, who's your favourite RTS manufacturer? Well, I wonder who that could be, Elliot. Oh, it's Elliot. Nice to see you online, Elliot. Thanks for joining us. Ian Pass, congrats on the HIF44. You should be very proud. I am. Thank you very much for passing that on. Plus, thanks for getting a great product to us. Well, that was the whole point. Is SU are very good at making carburetors to suit all the classic cars, but they make it exactly as the manufacturer intended, which is okay. But it's not okay if you want performance. So here we go. The other thing is, I was down there today. I think their future might be very interesting in what they're going to do. So I'm not going to say any more about it, but hopefully I might be involved. But I won't say any more.
You should be involved.
But the point is, it's not. This is not just for minis. It's like the whole classic car scene. So we'll just see where they go with their ideas. I'm not going to spill their beans. It's up for them to tell everybody what they're planning to do. But we'll see. Okay, so Matthew Richard Witts. Oh, what we got? Yeah. One big carb or twin carbs is better. If you're a rich person, twin carbs are better. If you need to run a car on a budget like the rest of us, then stick with a single. But in terms of performance, a twin setup is better as long as it's set up new, all the rest of it tuned properly. So yeah, we had that little question earlier, but that's fair enough. Okay. Okay, Barry Till, we really need a tool of different. Yeah, talking about the van. 60 was scary on the A27, and I think I now have driven further than John Lee. Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, that's the problem with vans. It's a van like that was only ever meant to go along at 50, 55, Barry. So 60 is kind of top whack.
But you could do it towing a boat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got the torque. Well, that's certain. There's one thing about that engine. It's got torque. You stamp on the pedal at idle, and it just grunt away it goes. And that's the beauty about having one of these on it. Is she's got lots of low down twists, which is exactly what you want. Okay, SS Death Star, really application specific. Sometimes simplicity is key. Sometimes you want it as much carbs as you can have cylinders. Yeah, well, it depends on the application. But in terms of just driving down the shops or having something cheap and cheerful and reliable, then a single gets the job done. But in terms of performance, well, twins are good, but a big single does get the job done in terms of horsepower, but you just don't get that crisp throttle response. And the other thing is you can actually slow the car down in lower gears only having a single, because the piston damper can only rise at a certain rate. So that's something to bear that in mind. Yeah, Barry Tilbury, it's an old boat. Yeah, talking about the Comma van. Okay, Demi-Quad FPV. Good evening. Recently, AC talked about tuning SG starting with the spring. How could we realistically check how high the piston is travelling to check the spring without a rolling road? Ha! Well, I thought I might get this question. Well, you'll have to be inventive, won't you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Get yourself a small camera. Go for a drive. Record what's going on. Yeah? Or put your hand in your pocket, take it up a rolling road and watch. Simple. Unfortunately, it requires spending money. I can't help that. But you need to do it under load. That's key.
Yep. Yeah, you missed Peter Holmes's question about the bushes for the carbs.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Beg your pardon. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Sorry. Thanks for that, Darren. Peter Holmes, talking bushes. Do you just do throttle spindles and zero tolerance bushes for self-fitting? Hang on a minute. Keep them talking. I need to find something, and then I'll be back.
Yeah, the problem with the bushings is that they have to be fitted in line with the shaft. So when you drill the bodies out, the throttle shafts and the bushes, everything needs to be parallel so that they run free and true as tightly as possible. And they're also reamed to the right size. So it's difficult to do that as a kit because you don't know exactly how the bushes are going to sit unless you've done the drilling and reaming for the bushes in here.
Right, I can't lay my hand on the box, but I have got a box with. So I'm just about going through the process of making up bushes, which are pre-sized. All right, so require no no machining once they got in. However, it's a lot more technical than that. So I have a box with lots of different sizes, and you have to grade the size and then put it in the carb depending on the size of the carburettor to get the right fit. So the reason why I do that is so that I can get the right fit regardless of what's going on, and it makes it faster to assemble. So I selectively assemble them. All right. At the moment, what I do, and these are a pair of carbs that have just been rebuilt, and you can't feel any play in these spindles at all. Right. There's absolutely no movement, and that's because there's less than a thou of clearance. Okay. And the only way to achieve that without doing selective assembly is you make the bushes too small, and then you put them in and you size them by hand, which is what I've been doing. That's okay for now in terms of a stopgap, but it's no good for a long-term solution. So I'm now moving to selective assembly, and I've got a chap making them bushes for me, and we're size grading them. So we're grading them to half a thou. Okay. So we're not messing about. This is very high tolerance. So he's machining them on a lathe, and obviously the idea is you make loads of them, and then you grade them, so you get lots and lots of bushes over many sizes, and therefore you can pick the correct one and shove it in the hole. So you have to be able to measure exactly the hole you're putting it in, and away you go. All right. So if you change the degree of fit on the bush, it then makes the bush smaller on the inside. So you've got to get the right ratio of fit to maintain the internal bore size. So it's coming, but I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I'll sell them, because if people can't measure properly, they'll get a bush and go, well, it don't fit. Well, you'll have to clearance it. So if you're able to clearance it yourself, then I might consider selling you some. But in reality, the way I'm doing it, you'll need to buy hundreds. All right, to get a whole grading system, which is way out of it for people normally.
Yeah, just send them to you. It'd be faster and easier.
Yeah, yeah. So
now,
at the
moment,
the bushes are that SU are providing in this new carburettor, for example, there is the tiniest amount of play. I can just feel it. Okay. In the custom bush, there's none, and that's the difference. So I'm already working with the factory on their bushes. They know about the issue, and I think what they're doing, like they've done with this one, is they've selected the right fit so that it's not too loose. Okay. So if you buy a kit from them, well, that might be a bit different, but when they're certainly assembling them, they're nice.
Yeah. And the difference is that the bushings you're having made are continuous one piece versus the ones that come in the kits are a split two piece with a Teflon lining.
Yes. So mine are basically a brass turned tube, effectively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of think some of the clearance is taken up by that Teflon intentionally, and I'd much rather just have a nice brass fit across the whole thing. But yeah, if you don't have access to all these, machining tools and whatnot, and you've got an HIF, you can get away with the bushes that are fitted, but just you have to measure them before you fit it to the car. Because we've run into situations where they're out of spec, out of the box.
Yeah. So Rob Davis, what spring colour to start with? 1275 twin HS4s, K&M filters, and a 280 cam. Standard rockers. What's the head on it, Rob? If it's a standard head, I'd say start with blue springs. If it's a modified head, I'd say probably start with red springs. But in reality, what you should do is put it up on a dyno, put your foot down and see how much air the engine's actually demanding, and see where the pistons are. If the pistons are full open before it gets top power, then you need to, change the spring. Demi Quad FPV, would a 998 stage 1 HS4 ever need a yellow spring? No.
I also want to mention about the springs. It's like if you're doing tuning or trying to get your car tuned and you change the spring, you've effectively changed everything about the carburetor and how it operates.
Yeah,
So you have to start over again with your tuning.
Which is why I said you set the spring first. All right. So loads of people just go about tuning their car and they don't realise what they're doing. And that's the whole point of doing those videos now, is to tell people how it works so they can make the right decision about how they do stuff. Yeah. because what you get is questions like this, oh, what spring, what's this? I actually said in the video, I can't tell you what the spring is. You have to measure it, right? It's not something that people can tell you. That question there with the 998, that's a standard engine, right? That'll run on a standard spring, only if the spring's good. Yeah. If it's a worn out, crushed one, well, put a new one in it.
Yeah, even if it's just the same grade as your old one, having it fresh and new means it's the correct spring rate instead of old and worn out.
Absolutely. William Jones fitted a vacuum advance back on my Fast Road 1310 after your advice. So much smoother lower down. I thought I was doing the right thing when I removed it. Don't listen to forums. Listen to people who do this, and do it for a living, which I now do. So, the point is, an engine needs to have the right advance, especially at part throttle, because it's not filling its cylinders, so you need to advance the timing, and that's what it's all about. And it will actually do damage by overheating valves and all sorts of things. So, in reality, if it's a road-based car, get a vacuum unit on it. Oh, it's all very me tonight, isn't it? Need Darren to have a go.
It's all right. I'm enjoying. I got some popcorn. Just sit here and read.
Yeah, just sit back. Tim's Mini Garage. I have a South African 1100 crank, and I'm now unsure how to spec the engine build. I want a nice, smooth, fast road engine. Well, if it's a road engine, you want torque. So I'm not sure you want it 1100. So think about whether you want to change that to 1275. That's what I do, because that keeps the revs down and just makes more torque, and it will pull high gearing and just be quiet and nice and do everything it should do.
Yeah, it's almost like you got to start with what wheels are you going to be using, and then work backwards to your gearing, and then work backwards to the rest of the engine build on that.
Yeah.
So you can get your torque bands right.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Tarnowski, would your HI 44 work on a 998 with a stage 1 kit? The answer is yes, it would work, but completely pointless. Yeah. Just stick with a HS4 or an 1.5 inch SU. That's perfect for that engine. All right.
Yeah, 38. Be great.
Barry Tilbury, question now. Have you ever seen a set of twin 8 3/4 running on a Mini? Yes. So I've tuned a few as well. So if you actually look, I think it's either season 1 or season 2 of On the Road Tuning. There's a car that I went over. It's my first trip to the Isle of Wight. So the first car I did was a beautiful 1275 GT with a Swift Tune rebuilt engine. An original plus pack car, but the second car had a full house engine with twin HI 44s on it. Absolute beast of an engine, put together by Thomas Classic Modern. But the point is, it had twin HI 44s on it, which needed a good tune. So clearly, I was able to make a big difference to that, and it was a very interesting car.
Yeah, I had to tune one earlier this year. It was a blue Australian S, and it had twin 1 3/4. Ran beautifully. Needed minor adjustments. I was actually quite impressed on the choice of needle and how well it was running, considering it went from Australia to here, and vast altitude change. It was still running fairly well, but once it was tuned, it was amazingly quick.
Yeah. Pete Holmes, better to just give you my carbs to do them. It is for a lot of people, yeah. Goma Pole, is an HS4 large enough for a stock 1275? Depends what you mean by stock 1275, because it was big enough for a standard 1275 GT. It's also big enough for a 1275 late Sprite engine that's only got 52 horsepower. So I think we just need a little bit more information as to if it's too big or not.
Certainly, it'll be more responsive to throttle motions on a smaller choke like the 1.5 inch.
Yes. So there's one thing I do notice. It's an HS4 or an HI 38 is a lot sharper on the throttle on a big engine. more responsive, but it will lose out to the acceleration.
Yeah.
Just depends on how much air the 1275 is able to pass, and if it's a very basic standard one with small valves and a standard cam, then it's HS4 is probably fine. Okay, Ian Moore, can you recommend a make of measuring tools, vernier calipers, micrometers for the home mechanic? Oh, that's a really good question. So we'd all like to have a drawer full of Toyos, but for the home mechanic, not needed, right? And very expensive, for good reason, because they're very good tools. However, the most important thing to understand about buying measuring tools is they need to be calibrated and checked. So I actually do use a lot of used tools. So I buy a lot of Moore and Wright used tools, but I obviously check them. Yeah. Uh, I've also used some of the sets that you get from people like Kronos in the UK, which are, sort of 65, 70 quid for like 3 or 4 micrometers. Very cheap, but they come with tungsten carbide anvils and they work very well. And they, the anvils are square and all the rest of it, and they calibrate up properly. So, for micrometers, you don't need to spend loads of money, but buy from a sensible place like Kronos. Yeah. And there's a few other online retailers, but Kronos is the one I can recall at the moment. And obviously, you need to buy. I wouldn't buy metric ones because you're trying to measure a lot of the stuff you're measuring is imperial. It was made in imperial. So if you're like me, I can measure in either size with any mic. So I'm ambidextrous in that respect. Some people can only work in metric, and that's fine as well. But you'll have to convert. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, far too often you're working on something that is dimensioned in imperial, made to imperial standard specs, but someone's using metric tooling on it, so the numbers are all wacky. Just
Yeah.
use the system that it was made in.
So
Yeah,
slightly different advice for the vernier calipers. All right. I've used a lot of cheap verniers and they're just that cheap. So a vernier caliper's about 90 quid for a Toyo one, something like that. 6-inch vernier, 8-inch vernier, or bigger. Buy a decent one. Okay. If you're going to buy one, it's a life purchase. So buy a decent Toyo. I've got a couple of them around the, I think they do one IP65 coolant proof. That's an excellent excellent vernier, digital vernier. The other problem with digital verniers is batteries go flat, right? Very annoying. You leave them in the cupboard, especially in the cold in your workshop. You come to use them, they don't work. Think very carefully about buying digital ones. I use digital ones because I use them a lot, but I have to have a stack of batteries in the house that I can just go out and replace the battery. When I'm out on the road tuning, I have an old Toyo vernier, which is a true vernier scale. That never lets me down. Doesn't need batteries, always works. Learn how to read a vernier scale and you won't have an issue.
yeah, I absolutely agree. Having the calibration blocks or scale or whatever. Sometimes you buy them new and they come with a calibrating piece. So always check to make sure it is still calibrated. I'd like to get a set of gauge blocks just to make sure everything I have is calibrated nicely. Because trying to set up a dial indicator, make sure that's calibrated. You really need to have some other thing that's accurate.
You have to be careful about saying to people using gauge blocks to check micrometers. People, there are people out there that you've just walked over their grave.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've all done it. I've used gauge blocks, but you have to be very careful because gauge blocks are, well, they can be very hard if they're tungsten carbide. But effectively, you're using a tungsten carbide anvil and you're wiping it on a hardened steel gauge block. The gauge block will wear, yeah, and of course that will affect the reading. But
Of course, yeah.
if butts and coconuts, many tenths of thou down, but the point is that's why people don't like it. But if you buy a decent one, it'll come with a set of standards. Check the standards, and then you're fine. Okay, so moving on. Ian Pass, appreciate this is a carb day. It's not a carb day. It's just I'm in a particularly carb zone at the moment. So obviously carb end of the year with carb videos and everything else. So I'm still struggling with the Dizzy advanced curves knowledge. I have a 1994 Mini 35. Well, there we go. So that's a Sprite one. And as far as I understand, we'll have a slow advance curve. It's a slow curve and very long. Okay. So yeah, that engine will definitely benefit from a sportier curve and shortening. It's as simple as that. Ian Pass again. The RSP came with the same 65D. Will this have a better advance curve as standard? Yes. Could I just swap over for a benefit in curve? Yes, if the RSP's curve isn't warm.
Yeah, that's
I
really the key.
appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate it's best to have an ACDodd curve one or maybe a 123. Yeah, in reality, it's always better to have a curved distributor. But the most important thing, and the thing that people don't seem to understand, is just fit any damn distributor in the engine and measure it. Right? Measure what it's got. And then if you do that with a few distributors, you'll soon find ones that have got more advanced, etc. And then you can ask, send me a question and tell me the figures. And I can say, yeah, that'll work well, or no, that won't work so well. At the end of the day, what I tell you is only based on my experience. It's not perfect, and I'm not perfect either. So when I got on a rolling road, I can still be out by quite a way. Yeah. I did one recently where it was a twin carb 9 and 8, and I thought we'd need 30 degrees. Didn't, wanted 26. I didn't know that. I only got on the dyno, and the dyno told me. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, measure what you've got, get it on a dyno. Dyno tells you what you need, then you can curve afterwards.
Yeah, that's the point. You have to be able to measure it. You can't just guess. And you don't just read and try to understand other people's suggestions. You have to check it out on your own engine. Because they're all going to be different. Different carbs, different intakes, different exhausts, different heads. You just don't know what you're going to run into. So you absolutely need to be able to measure it. And yeah, on the rolling road is the best way because it has the load. You can do an approximation using just static. The engine sitting still. You can run a timing light and check the curve at various RPM points, so you can get an idea what the profile is. But yeah, if you want it to run perfectly, you need to put it on a dyno and get the ignition set up properly.
Okay, so Barry Tilbury, Darren, question for you, Darren. What part of the US are you in? And also, have you seen the rich rebuilds from the electrified garage mini build? I've not seen that.
I haven't. I know of the channel. I haven't. I don't follow it. I have way too many things to do on top of trying to make my own videos. I am in Colorado, so about middle of the country, in Fort Collins, and yeah, out in the west where the cowboys and the buffalo are. But yeah, I haven't been following the Rich's stuff. I have seen some of his videos before, but like I said, I have way too much to do. I mean, I've just trying to finish rebuilding this blown apart motor is taking all my time. So yeah, I don't have
Every
much time
time
for
you
those
show
things.
me that, it always makes me smile. Someone's had all the fun out of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Darren. Another one for you. How is the mini scene over in the US?
It's actually very localized depending on where you are. So there's a large contingency of minis on the West Coast. Southern California has a lot. Most of California. There's several clubs along the coastline, and then Oregon, Washington State has another large contingency, and then Canada on that side as well. Midwest is kind of sparse just because of the vast distances that we have, and there's a lot of desert out there. So where I am, it's kind of a little island of community because I'm here, and the mountains are here. So once you go further east, you have the same problem of kind of flat, humid, nothingness. But again, along the coastline seem to be the biggest clusters of mini owners.
I'm just going to get a screwdriver. I'll be back. Keep them talking.
Yeah, we had a national meet earlier this year in June, and I think we had about 150 cars that traveled around the country to get to the meat, and I thought that was actually a pretty good turnout for where it was. But yeah, I don't know how many there are sort of running in this country, but it really depends on where you are in the country.
So the reason why I'm getting a screwdriver is because the next question, someone wants to know. Ian Moore wants to know what a bias needle is. So, being as I'm surrounded by shiny carburetors with bias needles in, I'll take one apart live, and then I'll show you what it is on this, and I'll use my new HI44 to demonstrate.
Yeah, I like the fixed needle because it doesn't touch anything, so the needle doesn't wear out unless it's being etched by the fuel. But I like how the bias needle avoids having to tediously set up the jet so that it's centered around the center of the needle. And
Yeah,
it's just easier to work with.
I've just noticed there's 51 people online. We've only got 20 likes. Hit the like button, guys. Come on, let's punch that button.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And if anybody's watching that hasn't subscribed, please do so. Thank you very much. By the way, I will say I've also passed the 6,500 subscriptions mark just this week. So thank you very much for all those that are watching. That is fantastic. Okay, so moving on. So to answer Ian Moore, there's the carburettor piston, which I've just taken out, and you'll see the needle. It moves, okay? And the reason why it's called a bias sprung is if you look at that, it's biased over one way, okay? So it's just spring loaded, and the idea is that when it goes in, when you build these carburetors, depending on where the jet is due to tolerancing, that needle can find its way into the hole and has enough play to be able to take up and find the center, okay? The reason why it's sprung is if it didn't spring, it would be loose and it would flap about, and that wouldn't be any good at all. So the spring just keeps it in place, and it's just kept over so it goes up and down. But the only problem with this is it rubs its way up and down on the jet. So I'm not 100% sure why they did that, other than to make it so when you build the carbs, you don't need to center the jet. Because on the old carburetors, you had to spend time centering the jet when they was made. So I can only say it was a cost saving, because the problem with that bias is it wears the needle, okay? And for those that have been watching my latest series on how the SU works, the next episode, which I haven't filmed yet, but I will be doing so, will explain why that is a problem.
Yeah, anytime you have wear on the needle is a big problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's physical, mechanical, or or the chemical wear. It's never any good. Which is why you need to check and adjust and replace as time goes on.
Yeah. So hopefully, Ian, that helped understand what they are. So they do look different because they've got a top hat on the needle. So what I will do now is I'll just gently screw that back together, but I will take a needle and show you what the top looks like of a bias needle.
So Ian just asked about replacing the jet when you're rebuilding it. Yes, you always need to do that.
Yeah, when you rebuild an SU, you always replace the jet. There's never a scenario when you don't do that.
Yeah, I do them on all the fixed and the biased ones.
And the reason why you do it even on the fixed ones is at some point in that carb's life, the needle would have been touching it. And when you come out to some cars, you can wind the jet up and they come right up to the bridge and they're still too rich because the hole's worn out.
Yeah. That's an unfortunate situation that you run into. You go, yeah. Oh dear. And then you're going to find a giantly large needle stick in the hole to fill the hole up.
Yeah, yeah, and we've all done that as well, haven't we? It's usually a GG needle on a HS2 carburettor trying to block the hole up. Okay, so Tony says, I fitted a narrowband to my 998. Yeah, pointless. Just a wideband. And can you recommend an affordable wideband on a tight budget? No. The reason is because you need to spend some money to get a quality gauge. So about 240 quid is where you should be spending your money. If you can't afford it, save up. All right, that's all. That's the best advice I can give you.
And a lot of it, the cost is in the sensor. Those
Yeah,
Bosch wideband sensors aren't cheap.
yeah. So there are gauges that are about 180 quid, but they don't necessarily come with a Bosch sensor. So always look for a couple of so an AEM or an Innovate, yeah. But look for the Bosch LSU 4.9 sensor. And the reason why you want to do that is because the sensors don't last forever, and you'll need to replace it. And if you replace it, if you want a replacement, you use a Bosch sensor. You can get them anywhere.
Yeah, I always carry a spare with me everywhere I
go. James Barron Scott, have you seen any benefit to dimple ports at all? Well, from what I know of dimple ports is effectively what that does is makes the port act like a slightly smaller port. So if you've got a cylinder head that's perhaps a bit big in terms of its porting, dimpling the ports can help with that flow. All right, in terms of increasing the velocity through the cylinder head. But on a Mini, not normally a problem because they're too small to start with.
Right.
What I've often thought about is dimpling parts of the port that have very slow flow or non-busy parts of the port. That might add something, but I've never tried it.
Well, think about in terms of modifications to the intake throat and the head essentially. In dimpling versus going back and doing a reverse cut on the valve head. Like, opening up the valve slightly more would be more beneficial than going through the dimpling work, I'd imagine. Same thing with the, seat.
Okay, Russ Edgar, very interesting. The bias informed a crescent shape within the jet downstream in the airflow for better fuel atomization. This is what we were told. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. If you've got prior knowledge of why it was done back in the day, then yeah, that's great. The only downside is clearly where. But at the end of the day, it's up to you as owners to make sure you keep on top of your fueling. Where shows up straight away as fueling that's out of control, or is not where you sell it. Once that happens, you need to recalibrate. Tony, thanks, fellas. Bosch, thumbs up. Yeah.
I think you've posted a video before of a carburetor that you were working on, and you'd set the idle mixture, and after about a minute, it was slowly changing its value because I think of a float problem or something. So
yeah. So
yeah,
if you let a car sit there, so sometimes you'll see me when I'm tuning, I'll just let the engine run just to see what happens, and then you'll see it gradually drift rich, and then you think, okay, so the float bowl is not able to control what's going on. But the usual one with jet wear is that you wind the jet up and you can't lean it off because the hole's too big. Ford 160. Hi, gents. Just finished doing a head gasket. Getting mixed messages about first startup. Which procedure do you recommend? Dry start or fill the radiator with coolant? What gasket did you fit? And what method did you use to fit the gasket?
yeah. Yeah, I have a tendency to do dry starts, but again, it's dependent on the gasket.
Yeah.
And whether or not you used a sealant on the surface of the gasket or
Yeah.
not.
So I think if you use a Victor Raints gasket and then you spray it, you won't need to do that.
Yeah, and Ross just put up a video of him doing that.
Yeah.
And I've done that as well because there's always minor issues with them sealing around the coolant passageways or an oil line or something. So
yeah,
the amount of effort it takes to add that extra layer of sealant to the gasket is well worth it when you have a leak-free surface at the end of the day. Because we're not talking about like firing area at least. We're talking about minor issues along the sides.
yeah. So yeah, just tell us for 160. Tell us what gasket you fitted and what process you used, etc., and what size the engine is. 32 likes. Thank you very much. Keep those likes coming in. There's still 50 people online. Just going back to the last video I did, which is part 2 of the how your SU works. Clearly, not a lot of people liked it because I only got 2/3 of the views. So yeah, it's only got 700 or just 800 views, which is only a third of the part 1. So I'm not quite sure why that is, other than maybe it's me boring just talking. But clearly, it's very telling that people won't watch something like that, because actually they should be watching something like that, because that's how the damn thing works. So if you're not watching it, you're missing out.
Yeah, I thought part 2 was a lot of critical information about the spring and whatnot. Everyone should watch it.
Russ Edgar, loving the chat. Yeah, nice. I'm a cheat, as I worked for 10 years at Berlin right through the 1990s, so saw transfer of production from Erdington, tooling, manufacturing, etc. Oh, nice one. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, you got some inside knowledge, which is excellent. So nice to have you on the chat.
It's always fun to run into people who have been involved in the other side of this industry, either from the factory production or from the other suppliers, such as Berlin. They always have slightly unique approaches to what they saw and can talk about.
Tony's just put up those SU vids were awesome. Thank you, but there's more to come. So I couldn't cover it in just one video because you'd all fall asleep. So I just broke it up into parts.
Maybe one day you'll combine them into like a 12-part series into one 10-hour-long video.
Well, I'm not sure I can get I think definitely 3 parts, maybe 4. We'll see, but I don't think there'll be any more than 4 parts. Gamer Pile deep dive vids. Yeah, I know people like those. Yeah. Back to the noughties. I'm afraid this is for the MGB again.
Yeah, he was asking about using a rolling road to establish the ignition timing advance requirements.
Yeah, same thing. Rolling road. That's what they're for. People seem to forget that rolling roads are there. They're there to measure things, and that's exactly what you do to work out how your engine needs to best perform. I can't tell you, nor can anyone else. They have to get your engine on a dyno and work out what it needs.
It's also a lot easier than trying to drive around aimlessly with your tuning kit on a highway or back roads.
It's a lot safer as well if you're doing full power runs. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise you look like a maniac out on the roads.
Anyway, it's nice to be on air.
Yeah, I was looking at that 1-2-3 system, and I was hoping to get one, but it'll have to be next year at some point. I had to order way too much stuff at the end of this year, too many parts, carbs, etc. But
Yeah.
with the 1-2-3, I wouldn't mind going and doing a rolling road and setting up my car and just seeing the difference in the curve requirements.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it'll make you. You'll get upset about that because it'll all be different.
That's okay.
Okay, right. So, Dion, yeah. What's your thoughts of retorquing cylinder head? New cars don't have the head retorqued, as far as I know. Yeah. So there's many reasons why you have to do it on older engines, but one of which is you've got stretchy studs and different head gasket materials and all this sort of stuff. So if you're using a multi-layer steel, then and you've got decent head studs, then just crank it down and that's all good. But if you've got a gasket that's got different materials in it, it'll move. So as it heats up, it needs to, expand and settle and all the rest of it, and you need to retorque. Again, that's why I was asking that question a little while ago: is what parts were fitted. Ian Moore, how can you test if a wax stat is working on a HS4? Well, if you had a wideband installed, that'd be easy.
Yeah, I never tested one outside of the car. I'm sure there's some sort of process involving hot water.
I think a better process might be using an electric hot air gun and just gently warming it rather than melting everything. So don't do a blowtorch. That's
Yeah.
just silly. So just gently warm it, and then it should lean out with heat. David Small, thank you, Darren and AC, for these informative sessions. No problem.
Thanks,
That's what
David.
we try and do. We just put these on so people can come in and ask questions, and then we answer the question as best we know how. We don't know all the answers, which is why last time we got our friend Ross Thomas to come from Thomas Classic and Modern, and he came and answered all those questions about building cars and paint jobs and all sorts of stuff that we just go, meh.
I'm always amazed how busy that guy is, like how much work
Yeah.
he's working on.
It's because he does a good job. That's why. Yeah. Ian Pass, on a 1, 2, 3 Dizzy, are plug gaps and plug advice the same as normal? Cheers for these vids and deep dives. Love it. Well, it depends on what coil you got, Ian. Same thing. Coil power really determines spark plugs. It can also be done with a dwell angle, but in reality, it's kind of coil power. So tell us what coil you're using, and I'll see if we can answer your question better. Joke Escape, hey AC and Darren, yeah, got here slightly late. Well, I'm glad you're here. That's the main thing. Thank you very much. Game apart, it really is bad if you're on a full power run, staring at a camera to see where your carb's piston is at. Well, it is, but you should have someone with you, and then it's nice and safe.
Yeah, or just record it and watch it again.
Or just record it and watch it. Yeah, when you come back. Ian Moore, I tried both hot water and air, but no movement. So concluded the wax jet was duff, but not sure if I tested it correctly. Sounds to me like you did a good test, and it probably is knackered. And if it's 50 years old, like most of them are, why are you even bothering? Just rebuild the damn thing. Using the 1, 2, 3 coil as advised. Yeah, but they do a couple of types. Is it the low resistance or the high resistance one? Ian, that is for. Randall Perea, for you, Darren, coming down to the Springs anytime soon?
Maybe this December. There's a chance I may be coming down for a tune, but we'll see if that pans out, because I only have between now and middle of the month to do any tuning work, because I'll be gone for after that for the holiday. So there's a chance, but I'll let you know if I am. Nice to see you in chat, by the way.
Darren Robert Shaw, evening everyone. About to do my first head gasket change, standard 1275. Which gasket should I use, and should I use sealant? Watch Ross's video where he used sealant. I think you in favour of this. Yes. Ross actually asked me, amongst other people, about that, and I told him, that people are using sealant now. So go with the Victor Rainson sealant. Ian Pass, red dot. What's he referring to? Oh, a red dot. A red dot coil. Is that the high power 1 ohm one? I don't know. I don't know the range. So if it's a red dot high power 1 ohm coil, then you should be able to run 35 thou gaps. Ford 160. Hi, yes, Victor Rainson followed Ross's video. Yeah. Well, in which case, if you've used that sealant and you've used ARP studs like he was doing in the video, you shouldn't need to retighten.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits of the ARP studs. Otherwise, the factory ones are good, but you have to understand their limitations.
Yeah. John Cotton, hi, Adrian. The position for the vacuum takeoff your way, how far behind the disc does it have to be, or does it not matter? Do you know what? I don't have the exact measurement, so I just put it about that far. I could have a look and measure this one, but I won't do it now because this is a factory version, so this will have the proper dimension on it. But it's not from the face. The dimension is from the position of the center of the spindle bore. Okay, so it's not from the face. Lots of people make that mistake going, how far from this face is it? No, you're going to have a problem if you do that. I think it's 1.5. I think it's the 1.5. Well, the 1.5 isn't the one, so therefore I'll stick with 25 thou on the plug gaps.
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you, Ian. I think you're talking about the jet. They quoted at SU when I asked the question. I think it's about 5 thou. Doesn't move a lot because it doesn't need to move a lot. It's about 1 flat. Yeah. But it just leans it out when it gets warm, which is what you need to do. Because depending on, and this is the problem with SU carburetors, 1 flat on some carbs is hardly anything. On other carbs, that can go from misfire lean to being almost too rich. Yeah. So that's the problem with the carburetors, is then that they don't all respond the same to the same movement.
But I'd still rather have the wax stat on there than a fixed jet.
Yeah, agreed. You might want to talk about what happens to your car because you don't have that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So where I am in the country, we can have some significant temperature swings throughout the day. So during the middle of the day, it could be 75, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. At night, it could be in the 30s. We could actually have snow in the evening. So there's a vast change in temperature from the morning drive to the afternoon drive. And in the mornings, it can run lambda 102, 101, which is, about stoichiometric. Real nice clean burn. 14.7 to 1 for those using the air fuel ratio. But then when I'm coming home in the afternoon, it can be, 15, 20% richer because of the temperature swing. So it'll be running lambda 9, 9.5, not, even 8.5. So just from the change in temperature. So in the morning, sometimes I have to add fuel, and in the evenings I have to take away fuel just to maintain my clean burn characteristics. And that's what the ACDodd system does, is it adjusts for the temperature of the ambient air and the fuel to an extent, and the carb body. So it makes subtle changes and compensates for weather. That was one of the things I noticed the most about having my car set up real precisely, running a wideband, is that I could see seasonal temperature changes and the effect on the carburetor, which is why I like the A-series, because it's got the built-in compensation inside the fuel float area.
Okay, so moving on. Okay, so I'm just going to jump one. So I'll come back to you in a minute, Jacko. Ian Moore, okay, I was looking for the movement rather than measuring. Yeah, don't look for movement. You won't see it. What you want to see, what you want to do is put a wideband gauge in the car and measure what's coming out the back at idle. And if you warm the jet, it should lean out. If you cool the jet, easy to do that. You can spray some brake cleaner on it or any of the solvents that cause the temperature to drop, and you should see it richen when it gets cold. Okay, so Jacko, what's the best products to use for removing grease and oil underneath the car without damaging joints and bushings? Why do you want to remove grease and oil from underneath the car? I like to keep grease and oil under the car to stop the thing going rusty. But if you're talking about, you might have, that's my view on a car. But if you've got a car that's, showroom condition, and you've maybe it's concourse, and you've got all the underside is the same cleanliness as the outside, then you just basically want to use a basic degreasant, brake cleaner and stuff like that, or even just soap and water. Yeah, but brake cleaner can be a bit harsh on paints as well, so you need to be careful with that. So soap and water is quite good for, you know, for breaking down that. But if you're just talking about, if you're rebuilding a car and it's got clagged on layers of underseal and grease and oil and all the rest of it, well, you just need to get manly with it. Decent degreaser and go for it. I mean, I
There's
used to
also
take off underseal with oxyacetylene. You know, I don't mess about. But
yeah, there's
you know,
also
not
dry ice
recommended
baths.
under a car that's full of carpet. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
what we're talking about here is, yeah, just use solvents to take that off, or just soap and water. If it's a nicely prepared car that's all mint underneath, soap and water is really where you want to go. You don't want to be using anything that will damage that nice paint. But if it's just a car that's just got excess oil that's sprayed out from somewhere because you've had a problem, then, you know, I would advise you not to wash it off. Just wipe it, right? So you wipe it off, and then the oil that's still there will protect the car.
Yeah, you can also do like a dry ice blast if they have that system out there. There's been a lot of interesting results using that technique. But of course, that's a professional doing the cleaning for you.
Yeah.
There used to be a place that would do like a high temperature, like pressure wash almost. They had a special garage and a special washing bay, and the employees had special suits, and that was very effective as well because it was hot.
Okay, so Lee Martin, I both have bought adjustable oil pressure switch. What PSI would you recommend the light come on? And what is a good way to set it up? Thank you. I'm not really sure why you want one. I would use a gauge, but I find them personally annoying. If you set them at 20 psi, every time you idle, the oil light comes on, and then people think you've got a knackered engine. So, you know, in reality, I just use the standard oil pressure switch and just fit a gauge.
Yeah, I know that when I had my engine, well, I built up the engine for my red car, and it had like 75, 80 pounds running on the highway, and I thought that's just too much. I actually cut the spring down a bit to drop it down to the 50s because I didn't want excess wear and tear on the pump, and like it was just too much pressure. So there is a sweet spot for pressure, but again, slow speed idling, you don't need that much to keep the bearings happy. You just need some.
Dion, I'm trying to understand how two 1.25s are considered the same as a single HI44. With twins, you have two successive induction pulses followed by a period of no flow. Ignoring the flow through the balance tube, with HI44, you have four successive pulses. Yeah, well, I think the idea is you've only got two cylinders pulling on a slightly smaller carb. So if you look at the airflow, it's kind of about the same. And certainly what I've found in dynoing, they kind of are about the same. Although by the time you get to 80 horsepower, I'll retract that statement. By the time you get to about 80 horsepower, the twin HS2s are working hard, okay? Whereas the HIF44 still got room to go. And that's because it's got a much bigger throat area. Even though it's got the whole flow going through it, it's just a much bigger carb. So it's able to deal with that extra airflow. The difference is, though, you won't get the throttle response that you do out of the twins as opposed to the big single. So airflow is not everything, right? Airflow's, if you're talking about horsepower, yes, but horsepower doesn't mean acceleration. All right. And this is where people can't understand this phenomenon. If you're using a Weber carburettor with a fixed choke, then clearly, if the engine is fueled properly, it will pull very well up the rev range. If you've got a piston in the way in an SU and it slowly rises as you're accelerating, it's going to slow the engine down during acceleration. So the engine is actually going to lag behind what it could produce, because it's able to breathe better than what the carburetor's letting it. And that's why you put twins on. Okay, so twins are able to have the piston rising and present enough airflow for the engine to actually breathe to its full capacity during accelerative driving. That's where twins really come into their own, and that's why you need twins to get the maximum out of the car in the lower gears. Forget horsepower. You can see it on a stopwatch. Okay. So, sorry to get boring there. Okay. Yeah, Jacko, thanks so much. No problem, Jacko. What is it? All right, okay. Yeah, King Grollo 78. What does it mean if you spray brake cleaner at the carb and the engine nearly stalls?
It's time for a rebuild.
Okay, so just there's a couple of things there, right? So King Rollo, where are you spraying it? Are you spraying it into the air inlet at the back, or are you spraying it where the carb mounts on? So if you're spraying it where Darren's indicating now, that means you have an air leak. All right. If you're spraying it at the air intake at the back of the carburetor, there, and it goes to stall, it means you're putting too much fuel into the engine. Okay, and it's stalling out because it's going too rich. Now, going back to the butterfly side, if you spray it there, it means it's got an air leak, and if the engine stalls when you spray it there, it's still too rich, even with an air leak. Okay.
Yeah, and then of course there's also the breather pipe.
Yeah.
If you have a bad fitting there as well.
Yeah. So it depends where you're spraying it as to what you're actually finding. But I use brake cleaner an awful lot for telling me finding air leaks. It's fantastic for that. And it also tells you roughly how the engine's running. Because if it speeds up, it's too lean. If you spray it on and it slows down, it's too rich. Okay, so no more questions for the minute. So what else can we talk about? Panic.
I've got a few more videos coming out. I've got another Classic Me Survival Guide episode. This time I'm going to do valve lash and valve gaps and things like that.
Nice.
And then I think before Christmas I might have another one coming out with a famous YouTuber's Mini that I got to work on recently. So hopefully that'll be kind of a fun one to put out. And then I've got a project car I need to unveil. So that's coming up as well.
Okay. So I'm going out next weekend. Going to do a Christmas special on the road tuning. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a Santa hat on when I do it, but I'm definitely going to go out and do a little bit of tuning in December. So I've got a very nice car. In fact, I think there's two very nice cars. So we'll see. But I'm not going to say what they are until we've done it. If I get enough information, I might turn it into a deep dive episode. But it just depends on how the cars are and what I find as to whether they're suitable or not for that. So yes, things to look forward to, which is always good.
Yeah. Like I said, I may have a tune later on this month, but it's tricky around here because snow and ice and cold don't really convince me to leave the house. Plus, I've got this to deal with. so
the comedy piston.
Answering Seaman Sam. Yeah, my wish would be to have this engine finished by spring.
Seaman Sam, what have you asked Santa for? I haven't asked Santa for anything. So I'm probably going to get what am I probably going to get? I'll probably get socks, underwear, maybe a jumper. So I people don't normally buy me anything for the workshop because I just normally grumble at it. It's not right or whatever. So they just get me clothes.
Do you have any new patches or things from SU to fit to your gear?
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. Yeah, nice to see Darren has the Christmas jumper on. Okay, all right. Yeah, he beat me to it.
I even hung an ornament in my
Yeah, he
workshop.
did. He did. Yeah. There was some discussion earlier when my girl was about a Santa hat, but they couldn't be bothered to go find one. So, yeah, it didn't happen. But we might be doing one of these in the holidays. So we might do a festive one. I haven't spoke to Darren about it yet, but we'll see. We'll see. Depends if people are that that bored they want to talk cars over Christmas or not. But we'll basically we'll see the lie of the land and how the videos go and stuff like that. Because we tend to, well, I certainly tend to time these when there's videos out, so people get the chance to ask questions. Okay, right. What we got here? Okay, currently working on a 86 Nighthawk 700 SC. Haven't got a clue what that is.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So Darren, Robert Shaw, nice to see Darren has the Christmas jumper on. Yeah, where's yours? Okay. Right. FBA, thoughts on Vizarding an SU? I've never had much success with that. Yes, they will go better, but they kind of, if you overdo the modifications, they become difficult to get them to respond properly at all driving conditions. So my advice to you is, if you need to flow an SU, just fit a bigger one or fit twins.
Yeah, there's still value in removing sharp edges and things like that. So you can do things to whatever level that you feel
Yeah.
comfortable doing. But yeah,
So
don't want to mess the airport too much.
So okay, all right. I'll answer the question. I'll be a bit more diplomatic. So what you can do, if you're interested in doing a bit of vizarding, is avoid touching any of the bridge area inside the carburettor. Okay, and just keep your modifications to thinning out the throttle spindle, butterfly, and flowing the butterfly itself, and narrowing the screws down. Don't do any more than that, and then you'll find that the carburetor will still respond properly and do everything it should do. You can put a small chamfer on the bottom of the piston, but start cutting it and putting a great big chamfer on will affect the way it responds. So yeah, if I was you, leave that well alone and just worry about this bit around here. All right, and then you won't mess it up. But if you do that, you're going to have it retuned.
Yeah, because you're changing the effective airflow going through it. I mean, you could also just get a set of twins and then not
Yeah.
worry about it.
Or as James Barrett Scott says, I find a turbo improves an SU quite a lot. So do I. An SU is very good with a turbo. So yeah, boost is good. Okay, what's your thoughts on electric windows? Well, I have a modern car, so I love them. So if they're well fitted into a Mini or a classic car, then great. But most people just get the kits, bolt them in, and then they're terrible. They don't align the motors, and the thing screeches up and down or gets stuck, and all this sort of thing. So an electric window kit is generally not something you fit in 5 minutes, unless it's exceptionally well engineered. And I can't imagine there are any kits that are exceptionally well engineered. So my advice to you is, yeah, absolutely fit electric windows if you want to. But the important thing to understand is be prepared to spend time to make them glide up and down and take the minimum effort to actually work.
None of my cars have electric windows.
I'm just lazy. I like pushing a button.
I have seen ones where they take the crank portion, like the handled portion, and replace it with a gear mechanism. And uh, I've seen those when I've fitted one, and I've helped someone else fit that kit, and that one's a decent kit, but it was always just like this strange cobbled together pile of parts to make it all work. It was like servo motor pieces, and it was just this mess of stuff, but it did work in the end. But it kept the standard regulator operating
Yeah.
to glass, so it was all still aligned that way. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like once you add all that stuff on there, it's not the same car. Like you just stick with the regulator, hand crank. It's not that hard.
It just depends on your, what you want. Or if you want a car with electric windows in it, buy one.
Yeah, right. Just go ahead and model car. It's like, I don't try to make my minis into sports cars. I just drive them the way they are. If I need a
Yeah,
sports car, I go get a sports car.
yeah. It's the classic case is, oh, I want my Mini to be fast. Yeah, it's not going to be like that compared to a modern car. So go and buy a fast car. If you want a fast car, buy one. It's a lot cheaper to do that than it is to try and make your Mini that fast.
Yeah, yeah. Just thinking about this rebuild, like by the time it's done and back in the car and running, it'll be about the cost of kind of a mediocre Mini in this country, just for the engine.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, this car is one of those rare exceptions where the paint and body work got done, the interior is really nice, and now it's going to get a nice engine. But it's rare to have the combination of all three of those things happen. It would be kind of fun to fit a turbo kit, do one of those conversions, but I wouldn't do it to my own car. Someone has to pay me to do it because I wouldn't volunteer.
If you fit a turbo, just fit one that's a blow-through setup, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, looking at these cam bearings, I'm like, I don't need to go that fast. I'm good. These things are gold to hell. Like there's, destroyed. I did have one question
Bus
about.
back on again. Interesting how SU added spindle seals to the HO44E specifically for the turbo. Yeah, so as far as I can see, they use a version, but they also have packing and things to keep the seals in place with the pressure. But they use the same seal. They just install it backwards, as far as I understand, in the turbo carburetors. So that obviously the pressure, when the pressure comes in, they seal, but you have to hold them in so that they don't blow out. Whereas in a normally aspirated version, the vacuum keeps them sucked in, so you have the seal around the other way.
Do they have a special top on the dashpot as well? Special seal up there somehow keep the
Yeah,
top from
they do.
blowing.
Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
fibre seal and they have a clamp on the top to hold it all in and to stop you fiddling with it. Randall Pereira again. How would I do electric windows on a Mark One? Over to you, Darren.
I don't know, Randy. It's
Slide.
Do you even move them? Like I thought you just leave them open all the time. It's so hard to move.
I'll tell you, there's one vehicle I've always wished I could have owned, and that is it's not a moke, but like a scamp or something like that. I quite like the open sides of a scamp kit car,
Hmm.
or one of those type of vehicles with little 10-inch wheels on it. I always think that those are that'd be fun.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy driving the Mokes around. But those hard metal seats with no lateral control and stability,
Yeah.
it's kind of a terrifying feeling. Like,
Well, every time I've got in one, I felt like I'm like wedged in. They're tiny. So I find the scamps are a bit better because they got more. Or all the kit car ones are a bit bigger, so they got more room. To get someone my size in.
have you ever seen Ed China's orange car?
Yes, the Outspan Orange. I've seen that. I remember seeing that as a young boy. Seeing that, yeah, at Bewley and things like that. Seeing the Outspan Orange Mini.
I thought that'd be kind of
There
fun.
was a lot of cars like that were built in the 70s, based on minis. Weird and wacky things, and the Outspan ones were quite well known. So
One of our club members brought his coach built card over for a big UK tour a couple years back. He
Yeah.
actually had vinyl zip up doors. They kind of like rolled up into
Yeah.
little tubes at the top, so they were just open doors when you needed it and closed doors when you didn't.
Nice.
It's kind of a funny car. It had a vinyl top and dual
Yeah.
sets of headlights and all that stuff.
Yeah. Excellent. So we seem to be we're running out of questions. We haven't had as many people on tonight. So I think we're starting to get the rundown towards Christmas now, where people are doing other things and they're not necessarily being online as much as they would normally be. And then roll on January when nobody's on YouTube. Russ Edgar, the most popular selling HIF 44 in the early to mid 90s was the conversion from auto choke to manual on Maestros and Monte. I can well believe it.
Yeah, that water choke mechanism was a disaster. There's so many MGBs that burned down from those auto chokes because the auto choke was right above the catalytic converters on those cars. Oh. Yeah, right.
I'll put it away before we scare anybody. Yeah. No. It's a HIF 44, but we're not with any of the right bits on it. This one, Barry Tilbury let me have this one so I could use it to show people. And it's got gears and all sorts of things in it. No. Pain in the backside.
Yeah, so what do you do with those? You just leave them in a bin somewhere?
I'll take all the bits off them and that I can use and use them to keep the other ones running, like pistons and all the rest of it. Can use all that, the piston dashpots. And some of the levers are useful, but in this case, it's the body's totally different. So it's got no, it's got no bits on it that you can actually use. There's no, beg you, I'm looking at the wrong one. So, hang on. So I've just picked up a HIF 7.
Wow.
So these are nice, but they've got no choke. This one's got no choke on it because it's part of a pair, and the other one that was with it would have a choke. But so here's one you could build. And this really does go. Now this will really make your motor run. All right, but you got no cold start. So people always say, "Oh, the SUs are the same." No, they're not. They make flicking loads of them, right? And they've all got different castings and different arrangement. Because I asked SU about making some more HIF 7s like that, but no was the answer. So
Could that casting be drilled open for a choke mechanism?
Could it be? It's got to have well, probably. It's got none of the holes are there, so it'd have to be machined and then all the drillings put in. It wouldn't be cheap.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, not necessarily a plan. Maybe for a hot country, not a problem.
Although Berlin would refurbish that, I suppose.
They can refurbish, but they don't have any bits for the bodies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Okay, so Dean Cook, when rebuilding HS2 twins, do you recommend any improvement other than parts replacement? Interesting question. So generally, the twins from a Mini are kind of set up for performance, which is a good thing. Sometimes the piston dampers need to be changed and the springs need to be fiddled with to get the best combination. But all in all, they're not too bad straight off the bat. Yeah, you can modify them, but if you're going to modify them, like make them flow more air, then just fit a bigger set, rather than spending the time doing that. So in reality, the best improvement you can have on those carburetors is fit a decent manifold like the Maniflow. The only trouble is you haven't got any there's no heating. All right. So there's no argument that when the engine's warm, they run really, really good. But if you're in a cold environment, I'm not so sure it's right unless you paint the manifold black to get as much heat as you can out of the manifold, etc. To give you, because we all forget that you need heat to make the fuel vaporize. So that is something that helps a lot to paint them black. But then again, if it's a hot country and it's painted black, it then works the other way around.
Yeah, I've always had my headers coated, ceramic coated, so that they keep the heat in, and
Yeah,
then the manifold I run through the coolant loops so that it gets the coolant lines heated that way. People forget that the coolant temperature is held around, whatever the thermostat temperature is or whatever the radiator can handle,
yeah,
but it's fighting against the heat of the exhaust as well. So it's not only warming it up in the beginning, it's when you first start it, but it's also maintaining that temperature against the radiant heat surrounding it.
yeah. Okay, so Mr. Dodd, what do you think about using valve stem seals on a HS6 spindle until I can rebush it? Yeah, they work.
Yeah, I
Yep,
found you can fit a really large like rubber cap on the end of these shafts that goes just enough. There's enough rip on the body to do that. Um, it's only going to solve 50% of your air leaks, but yeah, it can work. One thing I was going to mention on Dean's question was make sure that the drop rates are the same on the twins. It's not
oh
necessarily
yes.
apart.
Thank you for that. I should have remembered because I've just done that on these pair of twins I've got here, and these were really bad actually. So just make okay. So the important thing to understand with twin carbs is they need to work as a pair. Okay, and they very often aren't a pair. So what I mean by that is the piston drop rates, rise rates, damper rates are not matched. They need to be matched. Okay, so when you accelerate, both pistons open at the same rate, and also the dampers offer the same resistance, so that they, again, respond the same and give the same fuel enrichment on both carburetors. It's very common for them to be anything but the same. So when you throttle the engine, it makes your spark plugs go, two spark plugs go black, and the other ones stay the right color and all this sort of thing. So it's just silliness. But a lot of people don't necessarily know how to do that. But it's all about adjusting one carburetor so that it matches that of the other one. King Crollo, apart from the minis, what would be your dream cars? I like anything with a great big V8 in it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I
So
would do
anything from the American market, Dodge, Dodge fraternity. So, but muscle cars, 60s, 70s, that kind of stuff. Old, big, great big carburetors, great big 440 cubic inch engine. Even doesn't necessarily have to be a Dodge. Could be do I have a soft spot for the old 1970s Chevy Chevelle with a 454 in it? Let's not mess about. Great big car.
yeah, that's not practical enough for me.
No, it's totally impractical. But you know,
Yeah,
when you put your foot down, it devours small planets.
I would
Oh
do that.
yes,
Yeah, give me a double cab Volkswagen with the drop side bed. Not an exotic request. It's just they never sold any of them here. So
Lee Martin, what's your view on a Nicky Carb on a Mini? I've never tuned one.
there I.
So here's the answer to any carburetor that you fit on any car. Only ever fit a carburetor that you can get the jets for to get it calibrated and set up properly. If you can't get it calibrated and set up properly, doesn't matter what it is, don't fit it.
I had to give up on my Delorto just because I got tired of trying to buy the parts for it.
So if you're in a place in the world that you can't get parts for SU, don't fit an SU. If you can get parts for a Weber and you've got a Weber, fantastic. Yeah, but a carburetor will only work if it's set up properly. So you only fit a carburetor that you can get tuned properly.
Yeah,
Randall
thankfully the
Freer,
SU
there's
stuff
no
is really
replacement
good.
for displacement.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really true anymore, is it? But I don't want to go down that road. But if you talk Ford V6 EcoBoost,
Yeah, how's your van doing now? Or
my
your
car,
yeah, with the new
yeah.
motor.
So it's had a new EcoBoost because it died, but it's very nice. Yeah, it's actually working very well. So I'm very happy with it. It seems to run in quite happily. Doesn't seem to be using oil. It's not smoking, and it's very quiet and smooth. So
Nice.
yeah, seems to be doing exactly what we'd hoped.
Yeah, and it was an engine in a crate, not an engine in pieces.
No,
Like this.
no. Maybe bits of it were like that, but I never got into it, so I don't know. Pete Holmes, Darren, that VW was a builder's van in the UK. Laugh out loud. Yes, it was. All right, we all know that they were, but the point is there was an awful lot of them that was used for recreational vehicles as well, campers and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
there were probably just as many campers as there were builders vans as well.
Yeah, I've got the full camper with the pop top in the kitchen, but you can't have just one. You gotta have two. But yeah, having the truck version would be a little more useful for me because I hate using my van as the tool carrier for doing all my tuning work.
Scott J, follow up. Have you ever heard of using Delrin bushes? Tom Bryant made an article on it. Don't know if you can post a link here. If I can post a link here. Well, post a link if you got it. You mean Delrin carb bushes? Delrin's an interesting material. It's quite expensive, but it's an interesting material. I think if I was going to do it, because the thing is, if you say to people, I'm going to give you Delrin bushes, which are plastic, people run a mile. Whereas if I said I was going to machine you some navy bronze ones or some lead bronze bushes, people would be like, yeah, I'll buy loads. Yeah, there's an educational piece there for people about bushes.
Yeah, I've got a set of Delrin on my van, upper control arms. They were a great replacement for the factory ones.
Yeah.
But I've never thought about using them as a throttle shaft bushing.
Well, it's an interesting material, but I mean, you can use it for bushings anywhere, really. As long as you haven't got too much heat. But in terms of suspension, yeah, I've not tried them. Russ Eckert, have you ever seen the electric suction chamber heater that SU supplies fitted to the scale? No, I haven't. I simply slid around the outside of the chamber and used 12 volt. No, I haven't seen one, to be fair, Russ, but I can see you're a source of massive information about old cool stuff to do with SU. So it's nice to see you about. Maybe send me, if you're on Facebook, send me a message and we can have a chat because you're an interesting guy.
Yeah, Russ, I've actually run into them out here because the Canadian market cars receive those damper heaters as well. And I've thought about adding one to my car just because I do use it in the winter.
Cool. Well,
Not that
you're at altitude, so you're probably the same sort of weather, I would imagine, that the Canadians have, or
to an
similar.
extent, yeah,
Yeah.
we're a bit drier, but yeah, same temperature. Well, I was describing earlier, I have massive temperature swings depending on the
Yeah.
day. And yeah, I can't remember how that ring heater had its temperature sensor. I know that some of those inch and a quarter HS2s, they had in the side the manifold spacer had a heating element with a thermal sensor in that spacer itself. But I can't remember how the Canadian thermal ring worked, where its temperature sensor was located. But it worked. I mean,
So, Russ, there you go. Darren's seen one. I've not seen one, and that's probably because I've only concentrated on working on the cars in this country. But yeah, very interesting. I've only had a few issues with carb icing, but not not recently.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine jumping in my Mini and then taking off into a snowstorm immediately. It's just one of those images that I never imagined happening.
So 44 people online. If anybody's online that hasn't given us a like, that will be excellent. It's nice to see we've got 48 likes, which is great. Thank you very much. Dean Cook, you've spoke about it previously, but will you revisit how to measure your cam in situ? I'm trying to discover exactly what I have, as I had some regrinding, but no information as to the spec. Yeah, it would take me forever to explain how to do it. So if you look back in the distant past, I actually did a magazine article. I think it was a two-part, it might have been, for Mini World, as a technical article on how to measure your cams. Perhaps if you go back through your Mini World pile, 10, 15 years back, you might find it. I couldn't remember the magazine title or the the issue number, etc. But one thing I've been meaning to do is to do a video on doing that, how to identify your camshaft. But yeah, as yet, I just haven't had time.
Yeah, it's actually quite a lot of time to do an actual proper video.
Yeah, the problem is camshafts are one of those things. You measure a camshaft, it's so easy to get the wrong figures. It's unbelievable. So the precision required to actually measure a cam is epic. And it's usually above the skill level of most DIY mechanics because they can't get their head around how precise everything needs to be. So I'm not suggesting that you can't do it. I'm just saying it's not a 5-minute job.
Yeah, and I believe Keith's mentioned it before when he does his measurement, but he's got a degree wheel that's like 3 foot across.
Okay, Scott J. Would anything else be the cause of leaning at part throttle other than the spindle? Yeah, the wrong needle. Your carb's not set up, right? Currently, I have a red spring in it. Should I try yellow? No. If it's a 12, it's okay, it's a 1098 with a ported head, it's around 70 horsepower, so it needs a red spring, right? The point is, it needs tuning. Okay, so you can't just go around swapping springs and hopefully it's all going to be fine. You need to measure what's going on, and then you need to look at the needle. Okay, and you may need to have a custom needle for it to actually fuel properly. All right, and the reason for that is because at part throttle, the carburettor is extremely sensitive. Okay, and the reason for that is twofold. One of which is you're on the thicker end of the needle, and what that basically means is a small change in diameter makes quite a large change in the presented jet area to the airstream. And secondly, on part throttle, you're actually on a reduced airflow. So any small change on that jet makes a huge change to the fueling. All right, because you've not got a lot of airflow going through there anyway. So that's why you may need to have a slight polishing of the needle rather than changing the needle. All right. So if you actually measure what's going on with a wideband gauge and you can see it's running lean, the chances are that you need that needle modified. So changing the spring, yes, that may get rid of your problem, but it may make it what one thing it will do is change the fueling curve that you've already got with the needle you've got, and it could make it too rich.
Yeah. Yeah, you said 14 to 15.5.
Yeah. Okay. So Scott, if it's 14 to 15.5, that's like massive, right? If you're setting the fueling up, 14.5 to 14.7 is a nice window where you want it. And if it's that wide, that's because your carburettor's not set up properly, and that's because your needle's not right, and the combination that you've got is not dialed in. So you need it tuned.
Yeah, 15.5. That's fairly lean. You'd have to have a pretty decent ignition system to light that off as well.
Yeah, yeah. So 14 is okay. Starting to get for cruising. It's a little bit. It's okay. It's starting towards getting a bit more fuel than you need, but 14.3, 14.5 is a good figure. If you've got a high power ignition system, 14.7 is good. 14.8 is good. Maybe 15. As soon as you get over that, you're probably a bit too lean. Scott J, right, how can I safely mount a needle for profiling it? Not in the UK, so I can't find someone to make a needle easily. Right. So what you want to do is watch my videos where I do demonstrations. Okay. So if you look back at my videos where I've done 2 years running, I've done a demonstration on tuning a car, and you see me holding needles and spinning them and stuff like that. All right. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I think I've got a little bit of footage of me reworking one in my needle lathe, which is portable.
Yeah.
In some of my videos as well.
So the other thing you can do, Scott, if you get stuck, is both of us also do video tuning. All right, so we do remote tuning. So we sit there, we charge an hourly rate, and we go through your engine with you. You do all the work, but we tell you what needs to be adjusted and all the rest of it. So there's something that you can look at. So currently I'm £75 an hour. I don't know what Darren is, but he's probably not too far off that. But the point is, you can then go through and have us help you dial that engine in.
At least you have a way of measuring the air-fuel ratio. That's a huge step forward.
Yeah, so having the wideband in there is absolute must. I have seen them. I think he's referring to my videos. What kind of chuck do you have? Just a normal drill chuck?
Yeah, the importance of getting it running true is paramount.
Yeah,
compared to everything else. Yeah, the jaws of the chuck can put small dimples into the top hat, but it shouldn't interfere with the motion of
yeah.
installing it at all.
And if you put burrs on the top hat, then just take a file and take the burrs off. But at the end of the day, you'll probably ruin a few needles anyway. That's what it takes. Troy's just come on and said remote tune worked great for him. Yeah. So I did a remote tune with Troy, and we was able to make a huge difference to his car. And he quickly found out that his needle that he sourced in the US was well basically dangerous for the engine. It was so rich, it was bore washing. So yeah, we was able to make a huge difference to Troy's engine. Yeah, thanks for that, Troy. And Dodd showed me how to do the needle. I did buy 2 needles just in case. Yeah, he was lucky. He did it. He did it first off, which was excellent.
Yeah, as long as you're careful and you can measure precisely, it's achievable.
Okay, that's a good one, Matt Newman. What kind of adjustments should we be making now the temperature has dropped? Well, if your idle's changed, then what you want to do is just check that the fuel mixture is still okay. And if it's not, you might need to tweak it just to get it back to where it was. And then obviously a screwdriver adjustment and just up the idle speed perhaps. But you shouldn't need to do any more than that. For those of you that have a HIF carburettor, you've got a bimetallic strip in the bottom. So that kind of gives you some temperature compensation. So really, maybe just adjusting the idle might all that's been needed, but you shouldn't need to do any more than that. If you're having to do more than that, it's a sign that the carburetor's not been set right anyway.
Yeah, and don't forget, at this time of year, people are parking their cars for winter, so you got to use a stabilizer to keep your fuel happy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Chuck Heiser. Additionally, I've been very happy with the sessions with Darren for remote tuning. So there you go, Darren. Something you've been helping there, which is excellent. So Chuck's been very happy with what you've done with him. Randall Pereira, one of my old HS4s has the dashpot heater. Yay! Darren, you're welcome to it. There you go.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I'll get it one day. I'll let you know when I'm coming down.
You'll have to show me that because I'll be interested to see what that looks like. I've never seen
Yeah,
one.
I think I have a broken one in the garage somewhere. It's a real simple device, real simple. I think
Cool.
it grounds through the housing of the SU itself.
Okay, Scott J. Okay, I'll just file the burrs yet. I'll probably do a video tune. It would also lean out coming off the throttle. Yeah, well, you want it to. When you come off the throttle, you don't want any fuel. So I don't know where people get this idea that they worry about it leaning out when you come off the throttle. Good. A modern car, when you come off the throttle, turns the fuel off. Okay, so you don't want any fuel. That's a good thing. There are situations where we were talking about earlier with this common fan that I went and tuned, that when you close the throttle, it went too rich. So you know that these are all facets that can be adjusted, but you actually want the situation that you're describing there, Scott, which is you want it lean. Okay. If the idle's unsteady, yeah, it could just be that the carb spindle bushes are worn. Yeah, AUC 8183 filed to fast drop. Yeah, okay. So one of the reasons why that happens with a fast drop is, you know, it plugs the hole up. So, you know, the piston comes down, the needle goes in, you know. The other thing is, if you use it like this carburettor with no hole in it, once you shut that down, there's very little airflow, so the piston will drop quickly. And if you haven't got much suction there, like a smaller engine, it will go lean. If you've got a bigger engine pulling on that, it can make it go rich. So you know, my point is, you just need to not worry too much about what's going on the overrun, so long as it's not going rich. Lean is fine. Yeah, Russ Edgar's come back on about the carb heat. It's quite right there, and just the one wire connection to the heater grounded through the carb. Sensible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it just either it was on all the time or it was one of those accessories you just kind of plugged in when you needed, because I don't know where the thermal sensor would have been on it. Like I said, I know where the thermal sensor was for the manifold spacer because it was part of the manifold spacer itself. I just don't know if it was intended for that ring heater to also connect to the manifold spacer sensor, or was it just on all the time with the
Yeah.
ignition?
Okay, so I think we might be starting to slow down, Darren.
Okay.
So we might have to close it early tonight, chaps. If the questions dry up. 53 likes. Thank you very much. I see the numbers are starting to come down now. 42 online, so not too bad. Scott says, "Okay, thanks, Dodd. Congrats on the Berlin Carb. It's on my list. I live with the HS6 for now. That's fine. The HS6 is fine. It's just you know, HI 44 is nicer."
Yeah, I kind of wonder what the next iteration of the SU would have been after the 44 for a Mini.
It would have been a KIF probably, because that's
Yeah.
what was fitted to the later Metros, which were made after that.
Yeah, so it had all the automatic choke control and stuff.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Just,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'll just put that back under the desk. Yes,
Yeah, I've been
Scott
doing a lot
J.
of
Yeah, sorry, the carburetors do cost a lot of money, but I think that it's worth noting that this carburettor is basically the same cost as buying a mundane version. Yeah, so you know, and you also get in the box your fuel filter, and you get all your gaskets and your choke connection, which you don't get with the other carbs. So okay, yeah. John Cotton's asking how far behind that. You asked that earlier. I haven't got an answer for you right now. I need to measure it in slow time.
Yeah, if it's based on the spindle axis,
yeah,
it's got to be measured.
Matt Newman, how about correct choke setup? Not sure what you mean by that.
You did have a video where you talked about your HIF choke position setup.
Yeah.
The adjustment screw.
Yeah. So that's set up to get them initially running. I think that was. So yeah, there is a video that I put down about initial settings for first start. If you've rebuilt your carburetor, which gives you an idea about that. But basically, I set my engines. Hang on, we got a problem with it.
Yeah, we tripped the 2-hour thing, so I'll have to come back out and come back in again.
Okay, so Darren's just gone off. He's going to come back in just a minute. So in terms of, I've forgotten where I was now. Sorry, that's because things have happened. Beg your pardon. Yeah, correct choke setup. So in terms of what you actually need, all I set on the cars is basically on an HIF 44. If you look at the actual choke setting when you set the fast idle, you will see that there is an arrow. So all you do is you turn that round till it's in the middle of that bolt, and then you set the idle speed to about 1750 RPM. Okay, when the engine's warm, and that's a good place to start, and then you can adjust it from there. Okay, so you know there's a way of doing it on the car once the engine's running. Yeah, so Matt, that's what Matt was saying. Yeah, there's a screw that acts on the throttle cam, which is what I was just demonstrating. That's the throttle cam, and there's the screw. All right, and you just, where the arrow is, you just line it up with the center of that and adjust the screw to give you about 1750 RPM with the engines warm and up to full operating temperature.
Yeah, and they Fords have the same setup.
Yeah,
the screw.
But they don't have the arrow. So what you do on a HS4 is you turn it round until the maximum position that you can turn the cam without the choke operating. All right. So if you turn it all the way round, the choke moves down. So if you just turn it round a little bit, turn it round until it just goes to the point it starts moving. That's it. Right. That's where you set the fast idle speed at about 1750. Okay, Scott J, is it okay to file the body by the throttle stop to make that seal fit for now? In Canada, so shipping is a nightmare for spindle bushes. I can link a photo. You can do anything you like to the body, just as long as you don't make it so thin that it cracks or does something silly like that. So if you need to file stuff, then go ahead, but don't make it so thin that you break it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That thin area on the flange. I just put a thin smear of gasket sealant on my to hold it in place. I didn't do any filing. But again, I use a large rubber cap, and I was able to just cut a small notch around that area, so it actually snugged up further down the housing.
Yeah, Matt Newman just said, I think I did that cold. Yeah, you don't do the adjustment cold. Do the adjustment hot. If it turns out to be not enough, then obviously just adjust it higher when it's hot, and then see how it is the next time it's cold.
Also, having a new choke cable. There's no burrs and things along the way for it to get hung up and get false readings. Yeah, that's been another pet peeve of mine is replacing the cables because they're all sticky.
Okay, so I think we're just about coming up to 2 hours now. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I think we should call it a night because we're starting to struggle for questions. So I think we've probably exhausted the pool. There's one more just popped up.
Yeah, I see it from Peter. He's asked me about a timing light video.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Peter, I've got that on my list of videos to publish. I haven't filmed it yet, but it's on my list to talk about timing lights. I'm going to talk about static, the standard one, and then the dial back ones.
I think you've mentioned to me you're going to do it as part of the mini survival guide. Is that right? The A-series survival guide?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Pete, that one's going to be covered.
Yeah, it's been asked numerous times. I just haven't had a chance to do it because I've been too busy working on other projects. But it's going to happen.
Jacko, last question. Can a crankshaft sensor lead to ignition delay in the engine? Well, that's probably one for you, Darren, isn't it? Being you worked on more modern cars than I have.
Well, of course. Yeah, if the sensor is, for instance, covered in metal shavings from whatever it is that it's being read off of, like if like an MPI car, they can get metal shavings from the starter ring gear onto the sensor, and then it alters the magnetic field on the sensor, and so it can give issues with its readings. Any magnetic type sensor is affected by metal debris.
Yeah. I see that Scott's still going on about yes. So okay, what some people do with those stem seals, Scott, is they cut the seal down a bit so it doesn't have to go on the carb so far. So rather than using the whole length, they will literally cut about a third of the length of the seal off, so it still does the job, but it doesn't have to go on so far.
Yeah.
Russ Edgar, very interesting discussion. Well, I'm glad we were talking about stuff that you like there, Russ, and a trip down memory lane. Yeah, in fact, I should imagine it would be quite an interesting trip for you if you spent a lot of your career there. Yeah, his head's still stuffed with SU part numbers.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows more than we do. The
Yeah.
AUC numbers. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, we're going to call it a night then. I think we'll close the shutters. The numbers are going down. So, thank you very much. If you're still there, please give us a like just before we shut down. That would be great. Especially all those that haven't given us a like so far. If you're online now, please do that just before we shut down. It's very much appreciated. What I will do is we'll look to see if we can get on over the Christmas holidays at some point. But I'll talk to Darren and see if he's up for that. And then that way you'll all be sat at home, nothing better to do. Maybe you want to talk about minis and talk about your projects for the year and all the rest of it. So that would be something that hopefully we can try and do for you. Anyway, as ever, thanks very much for coming on this live stream. Hopefully, we've not been too boring, and we've been able to answer some of your questions and maybe dispel some myths and all the rest of it. And obviously, please look at both of our channels and look at the videos. And if you like the videos, please subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, if you have subscribed, please don't forget to hit that like button on both of our videos because it just helps us get in a situation where we can do more videos in the future. So really appreciate that. I can see everybody coming on saying thanks very much. So with that in mind, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm sure Darren's going to do the same. And then we'll see you soon.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.